Hi conscious beings, welcome to my channel on spirituality, tarot, oracle, channeling, all that good stuff. Today I'm doing a podcast on shadow work. What is shadow work and how to do shadow work. So stay tuned. For those who don't know me, my name is Gaelle. I am a life guide and a spiritual teacher, and I help meaning seekers navigate a more conscious life toward greater happiness. If you want to get more content like that on spirituality, channeling, tarot reading, etc., make sure you subscribe to my channel and click the bell button for the notifications. So I made a video in French, and this time I decided to make a podcast in English instead of a video. But for a long time, I just kept the video in French, and I thought it was not quite fair for my viewers who are English speaking. So with no further ado, let's jump into the topic: shadow work. What is shadow work and how to do it? So it's a practice, a method, a work, an exercise that is in the category of analysis. So it's an analysis exercise that comes from Carl Jung's work, Carl Jung's theories. It's part of his individuation process. So if you know anything about Carl Jung, you know his Jungian analysis, psychoanalysis is about the individuation process, which has different phases. At first, you have to build a strong ego. You have to do some work on your personality, on your personality type. You have to work on your persona. And so the goal is to have a strong personality, a strong ego that is healthy, and that is the foundation for a deeper work. Because without this work on your personality, without a strong persona, without a strong ego, you cannot go deep. So you have to first work on the surface level before you dig into the depth of who you are. And then the second step, once you're a little older, you can start to do your shadow work. So shadow work is basically working on who you think you are not. Because as I'm used to say, we are everything we think we are, but we also are everything we think we aren't. And everything we think we aren't is the shadow. In the shadow, you can have positive things, but you can also have negative things, negative aspects. Most people think you have only negative aspects in the shadow, but that's not true. You also have positive aspects that you have denied and rejected because it was not conformed to what you were supposed to be, who you were supposed to be, what was allowed in your family, in your surroundings. Because what the shadow is, it's everything you have rejected, everything you do not accept as part of yourself, everything you think is not you don't identify to it. For whatever reason, you can trace it back to childhood, of course. and even prior to that. But the thing is that it's not because you reject something, you don't identify to something, that it is not part of who you are. You just don't think you are not like that. So for instance, you will say, I'm very patient. I'm a patient person. And therefore, I don't identify to being impatient. Well, in this case, you identify to being patient, and the impatient aspect is rejected into the shadow. Well, it's not so much a problem per se, but it becomes a problem when you become reactive to things in your environment. So when people push your red buttons, when you admire someone very strongly, you're a fan. But often it's when people push your red buttons and they know exactly where to push in order for you to just explode or implode. There are just some people who just create some internal anger or strong reactions within ourselves. And that's when we need to look at our shadows. Because in this case, it means we've rejected so much some aspects of ourselves that when we see it outside of ourselves, we then react very strongly, very aggressively, and in a way that is not healthy. So we have to look at our shadows in those cases when we have strong emotional reactions. Because the external world is always a reflection of our internal world. Everything we see outside is a reflection of our inner world. So we may not like what we see outside, but in this case it means that we don't like what we have inside as well. So the external world is reflecting the shadow, but it's not reflecting just the shadow, it's reflecting everything you are. So I'll recap quickly. The shadow work comes from Carl Jung's individuation process. It's the second part of the individuation process. After building a strong personality, a strong ego, you then do your shadow work and work on what you think you are not, what you are not identified with, which you react strongly toward. Actually, there is another part of the shadow that is, I would say, even almost another type of exercise. It's similar, though. It's the work on the anima and the animus. The anima is the woman inside a man, and the animus is the man inside of a woman. Basically, it's the work of reintegrating her opposite gender aspect, reunifying the yin and the yang. But that's even more advanced, I would say, than just the shadows. So let's just talk right now about the shadows. I think it would be fine. good enough for this video, for this topic. So, how do you go about reintegrating your shadow? Because that's basically the job you have to do in the shadow work. It's to reintegrate the shadow into yourself. Re-identify to those aspects that you have disowned. Because you are so vast. Who you are is so boundless that when you reject an aspect of yourself, it's not real. It's an illusion. You think you are not this part of yourself. But it's an illusion because you are that aspect as well. And rejecting a part of yourself is a form of self-hate. It's not loving, because loving is being one, is owning everything. It's loving all of who you are, not loving just what the society values or what your family valued. No, you have to love everything you are, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and everything. So, first step is to first recognize that this aspect that you're seeing in others, that are those people who are pushing your red buttons, well, those aspects that you think you are not, accepting that you are that too. That's the first step ever. And then second step is to find a way to love this aspect. But you cannot love by just saying, oh, okay, from now on I'm going to love this aspect. No, because you cannot force yourself to love something that you don't love. In order to love that aspect, you have to find a way to see the benefits that this aspect has. For instance, about impatience. Okay, you think you're not impatient, other people are impatient, and you're just upset at other people who are impatient. You're like, oh, people are not patient, what's that? It's really upsetting me. I just would like people to be patient. Well, first step is to see that you too are impatient. You are not always patient. There are, of course, many times in your day and in your life when you show some impatience. Maybe not with this particular person that you're criticizing, maybe with other people, maybe with your children, maybe with your boyfriend, maybe with your wife. And maybe you're not even expressing that impatience, maybe you're just being impatient and just ruminating the impatience within yourself. And then being angry because of the fact that you are not allowed to express your impatience because you are not willing to express it. So then you are even more upset at people who are doing the things that you don't allow yourself to do and to be, and even more upset at yourself because of being impatient, which you think is a bad thing. So first thing is to realize that, okay, you too are impatient at times. Maybe you demonstrate more patience than impatience, but it doesn't mean that you are not impatient too. We are never 100% something. We are never 100% extroverted. We are never 100% introverted. And therefore, we are never 100% patient or 100% impatient. So, now that you've realized that, okay, you are impatient too, and find examples of your life, your own life, where you're demonstrating this impatience. At which occasions are you showing that or feeling that if you don't express it? So that's the first step. You find examples of yourself being that thing that you're rejecting from yourself, that you're seeing outside. Okay, so now you can see that you are like that too. Second step, now you have to find a way in which impatience is good. A way in which impatience is actually serving you, and that it would be kind of great if you could be a little bit more impatient at times. So, of course, it's not that easy at first, and that's why sometimes you need a coach or a practitioner or a therapist or someone or friend to help you out with that, because of course this work is a very deep work, is very confronting, really confronting, and because it talks about things that we are hiding to ourselves, we can have blinders on, and so it may not be easy to do that work alone, but you can do it. I've done it by myself, so for years, and so I can tell you, you can definitely do it on your own. Okay, so how can impatience be something good, something positive? Let's reflect on that for a minute. Well, being impatient actually gives you things, make you work for it, go for what you want. It gives you drive. When you're impatient, you just have this power, this action power, this drive to act and move and do something to get what you want. So that's something positive. You're not being apathetic. You're not just being passive. You're being active, proactive, and you're really working on getting what you want. So that's a good thing. Another good thing is that people are actually going to be more inclined to give you what you want, because you're impatient and you can be served more rapidly. You can be served first, while some other people who are not impatient, who are just patiently waiting, they're just not being served. And sometimes they are served in the end. So you can see that being impatient is actually positive. And you can work like that, finding ways in how being a little bit more impatient would benefit your day-to-day life. How being impatient could improve my life. How being impatient would benefit me in some ways. And find examples. Really think about it. Reflect on it. So I've already given you some hints, but you can find other benefits that are more relevant to you personally. You can find examples of your own life that are really resonating and speaking to you, and that may not speak to someone else, not so much. There are benefits that you may find that other people or even myself would not find beneficial. So it has to resonate with you, because you have to convince yourself that it is convince yourself. It's not convincing yourself about something that is not true. You have to find something that is true, something that you believe, you actually believe. It's just that you are not thinking about that. You are not thinking about those proofs. But this work is putting the finger on those proofs, those real things, those things that you already believe to be true, just looking at them and focusing on them. Because until now you were ignoring those aspects, those proofs, those examples. And once you find something to be beneficial, naturally and automatically you will love it. You will love it because you can love only something that you will think is good. If you think something is bad, you cannot love it. And because you cannot force yourself to love something, you just have to find, as I said, in how this thing is beneficial. We talked about it. Now you know how to do it. And I can tell you, as soon as you find the benefits, the real benefits, what you actually believe is a benefit, you will naturally just love that aspect. You will start to love being impatient. That's natural. You don't have to force it. You don't have to do anything about that. It's just gonna unfold. There are lots of things like that unfold by themselves, like forgiveness, for example. It's also something that unfolds naturally as a consequence as love and compassion. I won't go into that topic because that's not today's topic, but I just wanted to give an analogy and an example of something else that functions the same way. It unfolds naturally because it's something that cannot be forced. And once you love that aspect, boom, you start to make peace with yourself and with other people. So this person who was pushing your red button, suddenly it's not affecting you anymore. Suddenly you're not even reacting. Suddenly it's not doing anything to you. And it doesn't mean that you have to become an impatient person if your main particularities or traits are to be a patient person. That as well is going to unfold naturally. You don't have to take any decision about that. Things are just going to rebalance by themselves. It's really something that your higher intelligence, which is a loving intelligence, is going to do for you. So you don't have to think it. As soon as you've given the message to your higher intelligence that there is this going on, it's just gonna look after it naturally. Because you are at peace with impatience, because there is no war and no inner war anymore within yourself regarding that aspect, then it will balance itself. Your behavior will then naturally shift or not. You may change, you may not change. Doesn't matter. It will be for your highest good. If it's for your highest good to change, you'll change. If it's for your highest good to just stay the same, you'll stay the same. But the benefit is that you won't be reactive anymore. You won't be annoyed by other people, and you won't feel this frustration, inner frustration within yourself, and you will feel much better, more at peace with yourself and with the world. Just inner peace, it's really valuable. So don't worry about, do you have to change? It's just gonna adapt. Your equilibrium will be maintained for your highest good. And if you have to transform, you will transform, and it will be done in a very easy way. You won't have to fight the transformation. You won't have to experience hardship in this death and rebirth. It will be just unfold naturally, very easily and peacefully. So as I said in this podcast, I said shadow work, what is it, where, how to do it, and right now I've just given you the benefits. The benefits is transformation, or at least inner peace and peace with other people, better relationships. So that's the benefit of shadow work. Because that's another thing, because I didn't even mention that at the beginning, but yeah, why doing shadow work? Of course, there is good reasons for doing this confronting work. Because if there was no benefit, I don't think you would be listening to this podcast, and I don't even know why you would be doing such challenging experience or exercise if it was not to better your life. And really, you can do shadow work for anything in your life that is pushing your red buttons. Don't work on whatever. Just focus on what is happening in your life right now that is annoying you. But maybe start with something that is not too challenging, something that is not pushing your red buttons too much or too red, because as I said, it's a challenging process, and so you want to start small, you want to start easy, you want to start with things that annoy you but are not so much, that are not so much of a big deal, because there is less resistance in that. And it can help you practice slowly and adapt to that process and get used to it, get used to doing that work. And then you'll be able to raise the challenge to things that are a bit more confronting and more annoying in your life. So shadow work is really something I'm helping people with, especially in my tarot and oracle card readings. Especially at the beginning of my channel, I was doing a lot of that. Right now with the Light Seers Tarot, I'm doing more light than shadow. But that's definitely something that is part of my journey and something that I'm trying to share with everyone around me. Everyone I'm helping, there is always that process that comes up at some point. Oh, and one thing I didn't mention actually about shadow work. I talked about the aspects that are that we think are bad. But remember, if you admire someone and you're like, wow, this person is so great, I wish I were like that. Well, you are like that too. That's the thing. You are not only the bad things that you see out there, you also are the good things you're seeing out there. And so especially if something is really making you emotional and feel a lot of envy or jealousy, that's definitely a point. If you have strong admiration for someone or something, then it means that this aspect is being mirrored to you. it's a reflection of who you are, and therefore you have this potential within yourself, and it's quite strong even though it's hidden. Who knows why you removed it from your identification of yourself, of who you think you are. As I mentioned, it's probably from childhood. Well, it always has some roots in childhood anyway. In your environment, if you were good at arts, but not good at mathematics, and your parents decided that arts was not great, then you would have rejected arts, although art is great, right? And you would have focused on mathematics. It's not even your strengths, but you would have focused on that. And then growing up, you're feeling miserable because you're in a career that uses a lot of mathematics, and so you're very you're making your parents happy, you're very proud of yourself. But when you see great artists and you're like watching them, even not so great artists, like just you're seeing friends or people around you who are doing little things in arts, and you're like watching them and like, wow, that's so awesome, I wish I were like that. Well, yeah, you may have rejected this aspect of yourself because it was not acceptable, it was not considered as valuable, as worth it, and so you decided, okay, I'm not gonna be like that in order to be loved and accepted and to belong to your surroundings, your environment, and your family. Right, so that was a good point I needed to add. I need to specify this aspect. Okay, so like, subscribe, share with your friends or people who may benefit this podcast and who may be interested in shadow work. And I'll talk to you soon in tarot readings or other videos on my channel. And have a beautiful day. Bye.